WHS training in accordance with workplace policy and procedure. Now, in order for workers to have an understanding of the hazards and associated risks that exist within their workplace, each worker needs to take part in WHS training specific to their role. Okay, so what are their duties in their workplace? What machinery do they use? They need training targeted at that. Types of training can include one-to-one sessions between a trainer and a worker, team training sessions that are facilitated by a trainer, demonstrating and instructing an entire group or team. And then these days, training can also be completely online, which can contain instructional information as well as video demonstrations that model safe work practices. Okay, so there's multiple options about how training might be approached in a workplace, and work sites need to decide what's best suits the teams within the workplace in order for them to be adequately trained in their workplace practices and procedures. In saying all this too, with the different methods, you can also use a combination of these methods. So we might have an on-site trainer, but then there's also an online component as well where people are tested and assessed, or they do reading before training. Okay, that helps assist in the training method that's been decided upon. But now let's take a look at basically how we can and what we need to factor in when deciding on our training method. So I've got my trainer here and they're using their resources to deliver training to a specific team within my workplace. What factors do I need to consider about the training taking place? And what does the trainer need to consider when delivering to my workers when they're doing? What do I need to tell them my workers need to know? Firstly, we need to go over our specific policy and procedures. We want training to be aligned with that, okay? Because we already have existing practices, okay? And the way we do things at our workplace is probably going to be different to how workers do it at a different workplace, although still following the same guidelines. But we have different people, different machines, so it's got to be specific. So the content and delivery of the training needs to be consistent with our existing safety documentation. Secondly, okay, we need to communicate the importance of safe work practices and procedures. My team in my workplace need to understand that safety is a priority and they play a very important part in that. Okay, so we need to communicate to them and we need to use a variety of mediums to do so. So, visual and verbal examples. So, the speaker needs to say things to stress the importance of safety. There needs to be visual stimulus that show them how to be safe in the workplace and demonstrations given potentially by the facilitator or whoever's leading the training, showing them the safe behavior. Okay, that needs to be stressed to the workers so that they take safety seriously. Thirdly, okay, we need to increase the team's understanding of their legal obligations. And now, in relation to law, we know that the WHS Act 2011 is the foundational law. Okay, and they need to know safety in the workplace is a law and it can lead to legal ramifications if people aren't following that. But in general as well, just that they have a responsibility to be as safe as possible. Let them know of the existing codes of practice too. Okay, this is how you do something safely. You follow these rules, you will not get yourself in trouble. Okay, so we have legislation relating to law and the codes of practice applying to how we do things in the workplace. If they want to keep their job, they've got to be safe in the workplace. So they need to understand their obligation to safety. Next, okay, we need to ensure that the actual training meets the needs of the team, okay, and makes them feel confident and competent in completing task safety in the workplace. So the training needs to be targeted and relevant to the specific teams in the workplace, okay? So it's going over practices and procedures and tools that are specific to their duties in the workplace. The way it's delivered isn't just showing them how to do that, but it makes the workers feel safer, okay, doing their duties, okay, and more confident in completing their work in a safe manner. Okay, so it empowers the worker. They feel safe if they're going to do this task. Okay, and actually makes them safer and gives them confidence in doing a potentially dangerous task. They feel confident in doing that. Next, we've got to implement improvements into our actual training. Okay, now training is often an ongoing practice. We don't just get trained and then forever we're going to be okay doing that task. It might be training occurs periodically. Okay, in many cases annually. Okay, and at the end of every training session, usually there's a chance to provide feedback to the instructor. Okay, so once the instructor receives his feedback, they may make changes. It could also be that throughout the year, incidents have occurred, we've obtained feedback, we've learnt new data, okay, and that has led to changes in policy and practices. That needs to be embedded into the next training session. So, okay, it's an ongoing strategy training. okay, where changes and improvements that have been made to practices since the previous session need to be mentioned, okay, in order to keep the staff up to date with current practices, okay, because a lot can change in 1 year. Incident occurs, new data is found out, new research occurs, so things change, and we want to keep our workers current, okay, in their actual knowledge of safety. So we make sure that we implement those changes into our training practices for the next scheduled training event. And then finally, okay, we need to raise awareness of monitoring and reporting. Okay, remembering that WHS is everyone's responsibility. We all have a part in that. Okay, staff need to know what looks safe in their actual job duties. Okay, and if something doesn't look safe, they need to be able to report that incident, and they need to know who the relevant personnel is to report that incident to, whether that be their line manager, the HSR, or the PCBU directly. Okay, they know who to go to when something is not safe. And if an incident has occurred, they know what documentation to fill out, that they go and fill in an incident report so that it can be reported. If something just doesn't look safe, they might have an issue tracking system which can be logged so that it can be repaired by the appropriate party. The management can see that and then forward that on to who can amend that issue. So they know the way to see what is wrong and then how to report that onwards so that the actual incident or potential dangerous situation can be addressed and hopefully nullified before anything happens. So I hope this video has given you an understanding of the importance of WHS training. The fact that it's not just a one-off, okay, it is an ongoing practice in keeping workers up to date. It needs to be targeted to their specific needs, okay, and relevant to their duties in a workplace. There's obviously legal ramification for workers who do not follow safe work procedures in their workplace, as people can get injured or worse. Okay, and we need to ensure that our training practices are up to date with current data. Okay, and that workers are aware of how to monitor their environment, ensure it stays safe, and how to report things that they are concerned about to the relevant bodies, ensuring a safe workplace.